Swings at bat today. 2 notifications. My Lord. Hardest working team in podcasting, my team. We got to get this done. I'm doing interviews. I'm doing news. I'm breaking up news. I'm doing multiple live streams. Shit's going to get crazy in 2022. I'm going to try to make the show 365 days a year with a 2-hour, 3-hour live component. I'm basically going to make this into like CNBC. My team is like, this kid's a maniac. It's never enough for him. It is never enough. Why wouldn't you challenge yourself? Keep challenging yourself. I said this year, let's get to 5 days a week. Let's do it. How are we going to do that? How are we going to do that? I was like, well, hire more people. We'll sell more ads. Here we are. I said, if we get to 5, I'll get a co-host. Okay, Molly Wood starting January. Boom, she might even come on some December shows just to say hi to the audience. Now I got my Kara Swisher, right? I mean, arguably, kind of...
Nobody said, how are we going to do that? How are we going to do that, by the way?
There was a lot of people. And if you want to be on air, you want to be a tough guy, then let's...
No,
who's talking now? Is that Justin or Nick? Who's the tough guy telling me nobody said that? Oh,
hey, I say we go 24/7. Let's just go full on 24/7.
Don't think I haven't got that exact idea.
No, I said we can go. We can do it. The only thing I said was the only issue with doing it is scaling Jason. We can't scale a human being.
Did you scale me this year, or did I just show up for work every day?
You showed up every day, but I will say sometimes
no days off.
You know, we really had to push you some days.
That's true. Some days,
like, Jason, you were like, why
I can't do this anymore.
Do I have to record again? And we're like, Jason, you wanted to go 5 days a week. If you want to go 5 days a week, we got to record every day, my man.
I'm like, what's going on with these fucking ads?
Yeah.
You're like, dude, there's 3 ads per show. There's 5 shows a week. That's 15 ad reads a week. I mean, luckily, some of them we can reuse and not do a unique ad read every time. But oh my Lord. All right, Noties, are you here, Noties? My Noties are back. Noties are back. All right.
Oh, that's interesting. Someone is holding Nikola stock.
What?
I don't know how to pronounce his name. Haristian Zaryav?
Oh my God, please.
What
is your entry level price?
Previously heard you. I think this actually would be a good tail end to that segment. I've heard. Yeah,
why don't I see this? I don't see his comment.
Oh, I just pulled it up, but you should see it on your screen.
Oh man, I am stuck with Nikola. Why am I so stupid? TF. What does TF mean?
TF means the fuck.
The fug. Yeah. The fug. Say fug on the show.
The fug. Sorry.
What the fuck?
Kid show.
What is your entry level price? Be honest. What did you buy at? I'll solve your problem for you right now. What did you buy at?
You previously have said with stock that gets cut in half, all money has value.
Correct.
Even if it's at the half price that you bought in.
Correct.
Let's have a moment of silence for Christian. That's not nice.
Oh God.
Oh, here you go. All right, you replied.
Average
all right, so I'm gonna shut up. I'm gonna turn my mic off.
Average.
Jason,
okay,
you should just tee this up. Hey, we had a Noti Gang member who said he bought. Oh, that's not
3,
bad at all.
2. All right. And while we were recording live, because I record live the news program every day about the Nikola situation.
Can you go again? We had all those graphics.
3, 2. Okay, while I was talking about the Nikola situation live, one of our Noti Gang members, those are super fans of This Week in Startups who have notifications turned on YouTube. What that means is when I go live, which is kind of random, but usually in the mornings, Pacific Coast time, they get a notification on their phone. They click it. They get to just listen to me riff about the news, and they actually get to watch me record the podcast. And we're doing that increasingly with the guests as well. So the guests can take live questions. Anywhere from 75 to 500 people show up concurrently at a time. Probably and cumulatively, it might be over 500. But they're like the real true, 1%ers of the show. You can join them at youtube.com/thisweekend. You hit subscribe, and then there's a little bell next to it. You hit the bell. Now it's not just a YouTube subscription, but it notifies you. So that's just a great thing to do with you can have 2 tiers of YouTube subscriptions. You can have the people who you subscribe to. So when you go to YouTube, you see their stuff, but then you can have the people who are like the creme de la creme, that when they post a video, even if it's a pre-recorded one or a live one, you get an alert. Anyway, here's the question he asked me. He asks that, what do I do here, JCal? I own the stock. I said, well, what price do you own it at? And we can pull up his question here. He says his average price for Nikola is $13.78, and Nikola is trading at $11. So he's going to lose $2 per share here, which isn't actually that bad. I would sell it all immediately. What people do is when a stock doubles or triples, they will sell the stock to lock in the win. This is almost always a mistake to lock in the win and not let some of it ride, because you want to ride your winners, as we've always said. Google, Facebook. There were people who sold their Facebook $15, $20, $25. Famously, Chamath sold a bunch of his. If I was talking to my brother, if I was giving advice to my mom, again, this is not general advice, but this is the advice I give to a family member. That's like a quasi disclaimer. You got to make your own decisions and be smart in life. But I would say, if something is going down, you've lost faith in the company, the news is all bad, you hate the stock, get out of it, sell it, move on. Then take that money, because all money has value, and then figure out a plan to have that money grow. What people do is they ride it all the way down to zero. I think Nikola is going to be a zero, maybe $1 stock in a year. I think it's a disaster. They're going to be embroiled in all kinds of lawsuits and shenanigans, is my best guess. You notice how I phrase these things? Like I add that's my guess, that's my prediction. That's so you understand that I can't be sure here, but that's my best guess. Now, what do I think is going to do really well? Well, you can easily take that money and put it into Google, Disney, Facebook, Microsoft, Google, those big names that we know 10 years from now, the companies, in all likelihood, Netflix, going to be around, be valuable, have some giant consumer base. So your money should go up greater than the inflation. Who knows, long term. But I like to think in 10 years. Then you could come down and you could look at the emerging companies that are like Google was 10 years ago or Amazon was 10 years ago. Who would I put in that bucket? Well, if you were to look in that, kind of 100 billion, let's call it 20 billion to 100 billion range, I would have put Slack in there. They got sold. I would put Airbnb in there. I put Uber in there. DoorDash is pretty overvalued. You could put Lyft in there as a takeout candidate, but I don't like buying this number two. So I would say Airbnb, Uber, Coinbase, Robinhood. Now I'm in 2 of those 4 names, but that's what I do for a living. I might take a battered Peloton, because I do think that's an incredible company with a great, strong base of users. Roblox is in there. My wife owns a little bit of Roblox that she bought because she likes it. She doubled her money, I think, because she bought it at the IPO. And those companies are like strong companies with strong user bases and strong revenue. So, but they're not as big as Google's yet, right? They don't have trillion-dollar market caps yet. They have those 50 to 100 billion. So then you're looking for that, let's call it 5, 10, 20x. Maybe see if one of those becomes the next trillion-dollar company. I put Stripe in there too, probably. I would put Square in there as well. Those seem like really great companies. Don't know enough about Cloudflare, to be totally honest. I think that's a commodity business like Amazon's web services that they're up against in terms of caching the web. So I'm not so sure about that as an infrastructure play, but you might put actually Twilio in there because they own SendGrid and Segment. That's like I might swap out Cloudflare for that company just because I know the company better. That's just me. So anyway, that's my advice to my family member. If they were in the situation you're in, you have to do what's best for you. I would just use that as a thought experiment. I would ask yourself, are you riding a broken company down, or are you betting on an up and coming company? And then maybe the other option is to take that money and just put it in, what is it? QQQ is like the NASDAQ or something, or a Vanguard fund that's very low fees, or wealth fund, and just let it grow 7, 10, 15% or whatever the market average is. Okay. Great question. Okay. Next up in the news, a really interesting clip I saw. I actually saw it on Pomp's podcast or his live stream. Canadian professor and YouTuber Jordan Peterson has been orange pilled. And it's kind of an interesting moment. Orange pill is that moment in time, because Bitcoin's, I guess, official color, like This Week in Startups and Launches, is orange, and Inside's my favorite color. It represents basically meaning you buy into Bitcoin and you're going to have laser eyes. If you take the blue pill, that means you like fiat money, debt, and you're blissfully ignorant. So let's roll the tape here from Jordan Peterson. If you don't know Jordan Peterson, he's somewhat controversial. He kind of got bundled with the alt-right professor who became famous because he got into an argument with some woke students, and he really seems to care about young males and has created a bit of a following with that Reddit incel young male crowd that is kind of feels like they are maybe hated or told they're bad and don't have a lot of let's call it guidance in the world. So let's watch this clip.
Jason, I would also, oh, never mind.
You can also give me those notes, Nick, by the chat room. I got Slack open on the left. Okay, so what did you want to say?
I was just going to say intro who he's talking to.
And this clip comes from an interview he did with Dr. Saifuddin Amus. Saifuddin, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correct. I do have dyslexia. And Saifuddin is the author of The Bitcoin Standard, the Decentralized Alternative to Central Banking, which was published in 2018. He's also a professor at Columbia University. Let's play the clip. And let's play the clip. All right, next up.
Wouldn't they just buy Bitcoin? It seems to me to be a lot simpler than mining it. That if it costs $350,000 to make $350,000, why bother with the mining?
The short answer is if you have a way of securing electricity at less than 5 cents per kilowatt hour, then you should get into Bitcoin mining business, which is, lower than most rates everywhere in the world. So if you have a source of energy that is isolated from the grid, or if you have a cheap way of securing energy, then mining Bitcoin is great.
So does that mean that Bitcoin is a very good way of moving resources from places that can produce electricity very cheaply to other places where electricity is more expensive? It makes the cheap electricity much more valuable.
Absolutely. This is
weird. That's a weird thing.
It's very weird. And I think it's going to have a very profound impact on the global energy market, because for the first time in history, we have a way to sell energy that is location independent. A lot of places in the world have a lot of energy, but it's very expensive to get that to the population center. So the north of Canada has
So you don't need wires.
Exactly.
Jesus, that's weird.
All right, so what you're having happen there is this epiphany with Jordan Peterson, which of course Bitcoin people are going to just, going to be like, yes, you understand it. What they're saying there is, it starts with this realization that, well, why would you set up $350,000 in mining rigs to mine Bitcoin to get $350,000 if you just go on Coinbase and buy it? You would have had to wait for the servers to come, set them up. So all things being equal, if you could buy $350,000 worth of servers and then turn it into $350,000 worth of Bitcoin eventually, let's assume you don't get the servers back after that. But just in this thought experiment, why wouldn't you just buy it? But then, so it's like, of course I would. But then he says, wait, but if you can buy electricity cheaper, which we all know, nuclear, hydro, if you're stealing the energy like people were in authoritarian places reportedly, like China, people would roll these things up to a hydro plant that was throwing off more energy than it could actually send through the cables. Or some people talk about with natural gas. Sometimes there's more, gas coming off of these pipes and gas refineries than can actually be used, but they still have to burn it. And so it's kind of wasted and they need to ship it somewhere. That excess energy can be turned into money. Okay, that we all understand. But the next piece is, wait a second. If I'm making energy and I can make money from it, and I don't have to send it over a cable, well, that's an incredible thing. What that doesn't take into account is, should we do that? Should we do that? And the issue there is we shouldn't waste energy. In other words, we shouldn't build up production. Certainly if it was dirty energy, gas, coal, anything like that, we should not be making Bitcoin from dirty energy. I think everybody can agree with that. That's what's being left out of this. And the incentive, obviously, if you can make money and not bother building the cables to send it to somebody's home or a factory where it's needed, wow, we're destroying the environment. We're burning carbon and spewing, all kinds of horrible pollutants into the air, burning the ozone, creating global warming, and destroying the ecosystem just to make a quick buck. So that's the problem, is we haven't sort of put that in here, but let's play the next clip. So let's play the next clip.
Electricity from the north of Ontario.
Wouldn't they just buy Bitcoin? It seems to me to be a lot simpler than mining it.
Clip, we're just playing the first clip. Okay, so let's throw to the next clip. It's a minute. I'll talk to you on the other side.
Sorry, Jason, I've just had a technical problem. It's going to take me a second to pull that up.
Not a problem. Okay, in this next clip, Dr. Amus uses a real-world example from Canada, and Peterson ponders the net effect at scale. It's a 1-3 clip. I'll talk to you on the other side.
I'm just going to load that up here on as a Chrome tab. I'm not sure what happened there. I will have to fix this in post.
You just advanced the existing clip, right?
I'm sorry. No, we've broken up into 2 clips. So here we go. This should play.
Great.
Yeah, to get electricity from the north of Ontario to Toronto needs a lot of wires, or you need to, if it was gas, you need to put it on tankers or on trains or in pipelines. All of that stuff is pretty expensive. But with Bitcoin, you just need an internet connection. You take the Bitcoin miners to where that energy is, and then you can monetize that energy and turn it into Bitcoin. It's magic.
So what's the net effect of that on the price of electricity worldwide? Is that deflationary with regards to electricity cost?
I think so. I think this is a point that I make in the fiat standard, which is that, we've had fiat subsidize all these dysfunctional forms of energy over the last 50 years that have led to the grid becoming unreliable. And we have Bitcoin, like the vigilante savior that it is, coming in and providing a global subsidy for anybody who can make electricity at a cheap rate to monetize that.
That's absolutely mind-boggling. It'll take me like 5 years to think that through. And it seems to completely contradict the idea that Bitcoin is a waste of the world's resources. It's a complete opposite if this monetization idea is actually true.
The problem with this is I don't think it is true. We really do not want to incentivize people to not send the electricity to a city and instead just burn it to make Bitcoin, to make money, because again, we're burning natural resources to do it. The only time we would really want to do this is if it was a very low cost natural source of energy like hydro, wind, solar. Sure, why not monetize the excess there and then use it for those folks to then invest in more renewables. And that is the positive effect. So what should happen on a global basis is we should ban Bitcoin miners from using non-renewable sources of energy, perhaps, if this does become an acute issue. There's no way to know exactly what's the total footprint of the energy usage right now. I know some people have tried to make estimates about that, but we really should think about either Bitcoin has to figure out a way to reorganize itself. In other words, do an update to use less energy. I think they've tried to do that over time, and maybe they have. Somebody can fact check me on that. Producers at thisweekinstartups.com. If we ever get something wrong, we'll correct ourselves. And we'd love to, get sources of good information. So if there is a source of how much energy is being used and the percentage of energy being used from non-renewable to renewables, we should just ban any Bitcoin miners from using coal, gas, oil, whatever is dirty, because that's not good for society. Bitcoin doesn't provide enough value for society to use that kind of non-renewables. But with renewables, hey, that's actually pretty awesome. And maybe this will drive the price down. If there is demand for energy and Bitcoin miners can figure out how to use solar, wind, and they put some of that money into actually creating energy sources, that's what I would love to see. If it is, in fact, the future of society, that energy equals money, which is kind of what we're saying here, well, then it would be pretty great for somebody to come up with a fusion reactor or a nuclear reactor or some, amazing new solar technology that was super cheap to build and that we could, in fact, turn into money that then could be put back into doing it. I think by the time this all gets hashed out, maybe Bitcoin will use less energy and we'll have renewable technology that will continue to lower the cost per gigawatt, whatever. So an interesting moment in time. I thought I'd share that clip. And again, I saw Pomp reacting to that person. So just give Pomp a little credit for surfacing it for me. He's Anthony Pompliano. He's got the Pomp podcast. He's 90% in Bitcoin. He's a maniac. And he's really—
We're going to do a collab soon.
And we're going to do a collaboration with my guy Pomp, where we stream to his audience on his YouTube channel and my audience on my YouTube channel. Hopefully the subscribers cross over and we share some audience together. That's kind of the idea. I did it with Justin Kahn. It was quite fun, actually, because we got his audience answering questions, my audience asking questions, and then we answer them together. Okay, in our next story, as an example of renewable energy in Bitcoin, El Salvador wants to create a crypto-funded Bitcoin city near a volcano. According to their president, Nayib Bukele, did I get that right? Nayib Bukele. I hope I got to get the president.
My mistake for not getting the pronunciation there.
Okay, why don't you go? If I got it
Cool.
correct, great. If we didn't, go put it in. I'll retape it. Just like the last segment we talked about, this project is hoping to use the volcano. I kid you not. As a
Naib
cheap source-
Bukele. Naib Bukele.
Naib Bukele. Naib Bukele. I hope I got your name correct, Naib. Just like the last segment we talked about, this project is hoping to use the volcano as a cheap source of geothermal energy. Remember, back in September, El Salvador was the first country to adopt Bitcoin as a national legal tender, whatever that means. The Verge noted that this makes it cheaper and easier for migrants to send money back home to El Salvador and could improve citizens' access to financial services. According to CNBC, in 2020, El Salvador received nearly $6 billion in remittances, which was 23% of its GDP. So Western Union and other transfer fees have a material impact on their economy. The craziness here is you could lose half your value in Bitcoin, right? We saw Bitcoin have multiple instances where it went down 25 to 75% over the years. Pullbacks are the norm. Do you really want to tie your currency to that kind of volatility? Well, an established, stable country does not want to put themselves on a decentralized, crazy, imaginary money, store of value concept here that is uncontrollable. But an emerging country with nothing to lose that already is dealing with issues, maybe for them it's not such a risk because they're already in a risky currency of their own. And NBC reported that the Bitcoin city will have residential areas and commercial areas like restaurants and an airport. Okay, obviously, if it works, they would do that. The only tax collected in the zone will be value-added tax, a VAT. For our American audience, a value-added tax is basically like a sales tax, but only for what is being added by that good or service provider. I don't understand what that means. Is that actually the correct?
Yeah. Well, basically, it's like if you're selling cookies, but somebody else made the cookies, you would only get charged for what that stage is. I tried to make
that's not a good explanation.
More legible, but they're all pretty bad.
Have you ever gone out of the country, bought something really expensive, and then when you get to the airport and you come back to the States, you're offered to file a VAT form?
Yes, I have. I understand that part of it, but a value-added tax is collected on a product at every stage of its production during which value is added to it from its initial production to the point of sale. The amount of VAT the user pays is based on the cost of the product, less any cost of materials used in the product that have been already taxed at a previous stage. Yeah, super complicated. Okay, I'll go to read the Investopia. All right, so if you don't know what a value-added tax is, because it is foreign to most Americans, Investopedia, which does a really good job of defining these things, they define it as a VAT is collected on a product at every stage of its production during which value is added to it. From its initial production to the point of sale, the amount of VAT that the user pays is based on the cost of the product, less any cost of materials used in the product that have already been taxed at a previous stage. The value-added tax is a type of consumption tax, obviously. Key takeaways: the value-added tax, or VAT, is added to a product at every point on the supply chain where value is added. Advocates of VATs claim that they raise government revenues without punishing the wealthy by charging them more through an income tax. Critics say that VATs place an undue economic burden on lower-income taxpayers. Although many industrialized countries have value-added taxation, the United States is not one of them. So super, super confusing for Americans to understand it. To fund the city, El Salvador is planning to raise $1 billion via a Bitcoin bond in partnership the digital assets infrastructure company Blockstream, according to CNBC. The bond offering would happen in 2022 entirely in Bitcoin. That's a savvy move because all these people around the world who are Bitcoin advocates can ship their Bitcoin to them pretty easily. So it sounds almost like a DAO. And a bond is kind of like a DAO when you think about it. It's like a structure, just not a decentralized one. It's a centralized one. $500 million would be used to purchase Bitcoin. $500 million will go to harnessing the energy from the volcano and mining. That's a kind of interesting split. I wonder how they came up with that. That when you see an interesting number split like that, that's indicative of maybe a money grab and people haven't actually thought this through. Like, is it exactly 500 million to get the energy from the volcano mining? Like, is it 276 million? It's really exactly 500 million and they're just rounding it up, or they're rounding it up to $1 billion. Kind of weird. According to Blockworks, which I've never heard of, the Bitcoin bond will have special dividends dispersed on an annual basis generated by the staggered liquidation of Bitcoin. So they will sell Bitcoin each year to pay for their bondholders. Interestingly, El Salvador picked Bitfinex Securities to issue the bond. The same company behind Tether.
Uh-oh.
What could go wrong? Oh, my Lord. If you didn't know this, the new president of El Salvador has a very mixed reputation. Some people consider him a dictator, and they think he stole power. So this is probably not the person that you want to, and he actually refers to himself as the world's coolest dictator. But this is probably not the person that any project, technology, or otherwise would want to tie themselves to, except for maybe Bitcoin. Laser eyes, have fun staying poor. It's pretty toxic to put yourself in alignment with this individual, but it's going to be an interesting experiment. So I'm here for it. If they are able to raise $1 billion in Bitcoin from the bunch of crazy Bitcoin, billionaires out there, and then they get payback and they're able to build a city based on it, sure, secure the bag, El Salvador. Get that money. Build 10 cities. If you can get 10 billion, let's go. If you've got other places to get free energy, let's go. Their ability to execute on this, their partnership with Bitfinex, there's so many red flags here that this looks like a mini golf location. Like, this is red flags everywhere. Stay the heck out of here. I would not go near this project. How is this better than people just investing in Bitcoin directly is, of course, what you'd ask yourself. Well, maybe the bonds will be more acceptable into the financial system. The guy Michael Saylor, who has the laser eyes from MicroStrategy, which was, I think, a failed company that had a checkered past. He just decided to turn it into a Bitcoin holding company, essentially, and he just bought as much Bitcoin as possible. He's the guy who famously said, sell everything you own, buy Bitcoin, get loans, buy Bitcoin, just do everything you can, is his thesis, which I'll be honest, he's been quite right for some period of time. When the market pulls back, of course, he looks like a moron. And then when the Bitcoin doubles, he looks like a genius. And that is the nature of, this new imaginary monetary system that is highly speculative and, I think fairly obvious to everybody, a bubble. Some people think it's not a bubble, but they're usually the ones who have a vested interest in getting the next person to buy Bitcoin. In that way, Bitcoin has a very MLM nature to it. It's pretty obvious. Once you own Bitcoin, you really want to tell people buy it, buy it, buy it. Listen, I own 7 figures worth of Bitcoin, bought at $100 to $200 a coin. But I'm not sitting here telling you to buy it because I don't know where it's going to go. I think it could go back down to 30 as easily as it could go up to 300. I will say, in Bitcoin's defense, my number one issue with Bitcoin was like the manipulation of it, and which was great, and the fact that it could be hacked at some point. It's becoming, I believe, less manipulated as more people hold it and don't sell it because there's less opportunity to manipulate it because there's a fixed amount of circulation, and these big players seem to be buying it and not selling it. So then how do you manipulate it if there's just big holders, right? It'd be kind of hard to manipulate it. And then two, shockingly, with all this money at stake, nobody has figured out a way to hack the Bitcoin network. You can hack people's wallets. Obviously, you put a gun to somebody's head and ask them to put your ATM code in as well. But I got to give Bitcoin credit for those two issues. So do you think the lack of transparency in crypto could lead to more crime is another question that people have asked me. Well, El Salvador has nothing to lose here. They have one of the highest crime rates in Latin America, over 1,300 homicides in 2020. It's they've got some serious gang problems, and the prisons are controlled by gangs. Just type in El Salvador, Amnesty International, and or El Salvador human rights, or El Salvador dictator, and get educated. I think this guy from El Salvador is a really bad actor, and he's just glomming on to the Bitcoin, community in order to, work them. I think literally the Bitcoin community is being worked by a bad actor here. And the Bitcoin community is so desperate for any pump moment that will make them, make the Bitcoin go up, that they're like, oh, there's a country that's buying into it. They really never double clicked and drill down to find out that this guy's really a bad individual. Like, do your diligence, folks. As of this morning, Bitcoin's at 57K. It's far off its new all-time high, which it hit on November 10th, 12 days ago, of 68K. So people are dumping it again. But 57 is an incredible return from the $3,000 I think it bottomed out at after it peaked at 20K, which was the other previous high. So it's trending up and down, but generally up. And we'll see if that continues. I'm going to continue to hold my Bitcoin. I think it's like one of those bets I made with a very small fraction of our net worth, or I should say my wife made, and I supported. It's a very small fraction of our net worth. I think owning 1 or 2% of your net worth in Bitcoin or any cryptocurrencies, maybe even up to 5% if you like to speculate. Nothing wrong with that. If you've done your homework and you actually understand these projects and you want to go up 20, 30, 40, 50%, and it was your full-time job, like I could see people doing that. I could understand people doing that. It's not for me, but I can tell you like my net worth is over 50% in tech startups. Yeah. And it's because it's my job, right? You'd be surprised if it wasn't, right? So, and it's very hard for me to get out of them because what am I going to do? Sell my shares in Square or Uber or, Calm.com or Robinhood? No, I still believe in these companies. Like, is there a better place for me to put my money? No, these companies are fantastic. So I stick with them. All right. In our We Live in the Future segment, a Japanese drone startup is building.
1 second, Jason. Sorry to break you up. Charles, do you have these 2 clips ready to go? Just want to make sure we don't run into any technical issues.
Yes, I have them ready to go.
Perfect.
Okay, and I have to get off this for that legal call, right? In 8 minutes?
You do.
So
yeah. You can do a quick one here. It's short.
3, 2. All right. Everybody loves our segment, WLITF. We live in the future. Well, here it is. A Japanese drone startup is building a hover bike. I kid you not. Roll the 24-second video, and I will talk over it. For those people watching, here you go. This looks like something out of Star Wars or Tron. 2 giant blades spinning with a bunch of smaller ones, and there's a person on the top, sitting on the top of it. Looks like a speeder bike with these giant fans, and it is hovering almost perfectly. It's got a little bit of yaw to it, going left and right, and there they go. They're hovering around. So it is not far from being reality that instead of riding on roads, we'll be riding on air. These hover bikes they look like spinners from Blade Runner, to be honest, but more like a motorcycle as opposed to sitting in them. The spinner from Blade Runner will be here in our lifetime, and you're going to see people playing with these things on tracks. The first part is CGI in this video, and the racetrack is real. Wait a second. That was CGI, not real?
No, it was real. There's a small clip in it where it like lifts up off the ground. That's CGI, but everything on the racetrack's real.
So just for clarity, there's a small part of this in the first part where it lifts off the ground. That's CGI. I'm not sure why they CGI'd it. That's kind of a bummer. But the CEO, Daisuke Katano, said the bikes will not be allowed to fly over Japan's packed roads in the near future, nor will they be allowed on the roads, I'll be honest. According to Reuters, they are targeting supercar fanatics as their customers. Here's a picture of the CEO posing with it. It's pretty good looking. Looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. According to PitchBook, the company ALI Technologies has investors including Mitsubishi, and they've raised $28 million since 2017. Those numbers tend to be low because there can be financings that you don't know about, recent ones. But if you compare this specs and pricing to the Jetson 1, which we covered on episode 1322 earlier in November, if you check out the split screen video here, while I read off the comparisons, the X Turismo is $680,000. The Jetson 192. So obviously Jetson 1 gets that one. The engine, the X Turismo is a conventional engine plus 4 battery-powered motors. So I guess that means gasoline. Jetson 1 is 8 electric motors. Flight time, X Turismo is 40 minutes because it's using gas, obviously. Jetson 1 only 20 minutes, so half. And they both, interestingly, go about 62, 63 miles an hour. In terms of which one's cooler or which one would be street legal, none of these things are going to be street legal until you can prove the safety of them, i.e. they're not going to fall on somebody's head. But you could see these very easily being used in theme parks or on racetracks, and people loving to go out and spend their time using them. You're not going to see these in cities. But it is possible that on country roads or something like that, they could get an exception to drive them on roads. But then what's the point? You could easier drive in a car. So these are limited use until maybe 10, 20 years from now, when you can be guaranteed that if they fly over cars on a highway like the 10 freeway, they're not going to land on them. In order for them to not land on those, they're going to have massive redundancy, be proven in the field, have much better battery life, like maybe triple, quadruple, and they're going to need to have somewhere to land. So these are really interesting. I wonder how high they'll eventually be able to go. Is 10 feet realistic, 5 feet? Because they would need to clear other vehicles. This is really interesting. I think they're going to be a lot of fun to drive. And I think they'll be for entertainment value. Search and rescue comes to mind. Maybe policing the border. You could see people zipping along, the perimeter of some, campus or something with these. But, private use, private roads or areas. Yeah, could it be used in ski rescue? Maybe. I don't know how they would deal with snow and wind on a mountain. Probably not well. I don't think these can go across water, but maybe eventually they will. That would be interesting. If they did work across water, you could see people, using them to go across the East River, Hudson River, Sydney Bay, Melbourne, any of those bay cities like we talked about for VTOLs. So these are kind of like VTOLs, but they're closer to the ground. Anyway, we are living in the future, and it's pretty freaking awesome. We'll see you next time on This Week in Startups. Bye-bye.
Noti Gang thinks the entire video is CGI of the helicopter.
Of the
I've
they
taught think it's like legit fake.
Do you have an intro for me for today or no?
No, I don't have one right now. Can you do one ad read for me quickly though? It's an easy one, super easy.
But what if we don't? We need an ad. Don't we need an intro?
Yeah, I'll write it while you do the
okay.
ad
Which ad read do you need?
Our Crowd. It's the top one on ad copy. It's generic, so no deal of the week, no fancy company names.
Okay. 3, 2, all around the world, tech companies are innovating and driving returns for investors. Don't I know it? Well, Our Crowd analyzes many of these companies, and they search across the global private market. Then they select the ones with the greatest growth potential. And finally, they bring them to us, me and you, from personalized medicine to cybersecurity to robotics and quantum computing and much more, whether it's in a state-of-the-art lab, a startup garage, or anywhere in between. Our Crowd identifies innovators so you can invest when growth potential is greatest, which is early. Our Crowd accredited investors have already invested over $1 billion in growing tech companies. Our Crowd accredited investors have already invested over $1 billion in growing tech companies. And many of their members have benefited from 46 IPOs or exits. Now you can truly diversify your portfolio by investing early in innovative private market companies at Our Crowd. Join the fastest growing venture capital investment community at ourcrowd.com/twist. That's ourcrowd, OURCROWD.com/twist to sign up for free today. Noties, don't be trolling me.
Getting some
more energy.
There,
come on. That was a high energy read, and you know it. God damn it. Okay, here we go. 3, 2. It is a full news day. My favorite day of the week is when I get to do tons of news, and we do a quick update on Nikola and Trevor Milton's situation. It is not looking good for this company or for Trevor. Then I'm going to react to a video of Jordan Peterson getting orange pilled, which I first saw on the Pomp podcast. Basically, he is amazed by how Bitcoin works and turns energy into actual money. And then we're going to talk about El Salvador's Bitcoin city, built through the power of a volcano and a bond made from or partnered with Bitfinex. The whole thing seems pretty red flaggy to me. And we're going to wrap with another segment of We Live in the Future with another speeder bike type product. This one comes out of Japan and it is wild. Okay, stick with us.
Good to go. Okay. All right, jump on that call.